Galactic Standard Date. Year 11356. Day 92. Sol Standard Date. 4th of the 4th, 3267. Catherine was torn between petting the left half of the council and petting the right half of the council. She needed to start on one side and work her way around, but she just couldn't decide who should get first pets. So she just stared at them and mentally debated while Basileus left and the camera was turned off. If I start with the left side, I will be going from little doggy to teeny tiny mole person. From the right, though, I get to start with the smallest to move up to biggest. Decisions. She was snapped out of her mental debate by clapping and cheers from the council. Some were yelling something about making allies with gods, while others seemed happy to be alive for some reason. She noticed the mole person had begun to walk over to her, and that's when she decided, guess it's going to be right to left. The mole person tapped his staff onto the floor twice as he neared, and then twirled it into the air a few moments before bringing it back down into one powerful smack that resounded off the chamber floor. Mrfaye kneeled after his performance. Lady Catherine of House Basileus, would you be willing to accept my people as subordinate to your house? My people would be more than happy to do anything for your house. I would also ask that you consider allowing the Ascari to subordinate, should their representative ask, he said. Catherine cocked her head to the side and mulled over what he said for a moment, and then decided that she had no clue what he was asking for, and the urge to pet was beginning to overwhelm her. Sure, just let me pet you real quick. I'll talk to you guys about all the important stuff after I pet you all. Mrfaye raised his hand and wiped away his teary eyes. As you wish, Lady Catherine. My people are yours for the petting. It is but a small price to pay for the right to be at the side of God, he said, as he stepped into the arms of the blonde-haired Terran. The Ascari representative, Atrenta, watched as the Terran started wildly petting and cuddling the representative of an entire people. Yep, I'm convinced now. They definitely act like gods. She is likely Basileus' child, though they look nothing alike. I should make amends with her house, he thought, as he moved towards Catherine. He flourished his black and gold feathers and knelt down to Catherine, who was still petting the Morgaran Makent. Lady Catherine, I would ask that you allow me to repair my standing with your father. I am willing to do everything in my power to learn of the Terran ways from you. If I learn your ways, then I may truly repair my standing in your father's eyes. I feel as though I was forgiven this time simply in annoyance. Please, I beg of you, teach me. Catherine stopped petting Mrfaye and set him down as she looked the little bird over. You guys think I'm Uncle Bass's kid? Oh no, we aren't even blood related. I'm his adopted daughter, technically. But that's only because the Azarians got both my family and his. We are the only ones left, so he takes care of me. I don't wish to talk about it any further, however. I just needed to clear up the misunderstanding, she said, as she picked up a Trenta and started petting his head. You can come learn what Uncle Bassi likes from me, though. I will teach you about his favourite movies and games from back before the Azarians, she said. Mrfaye began crying. So that is why he was always screaming in rage and pain as he sued the residents of the Vale day in and day out. To think that they struck down his whole line. The words that I once thought to be incoherent ramblings of an enraged god make so much more sense now. His rage was great, but his love for you and those that fell were greater. It was the thought of your survival that kept him going in the Vale, Lady Catherine. The extermination of the Azarians was second to his worry for your survival. He kept pushing because he needed to survive, just to be sure that you had made it out. He wanted to save at least one, he said through sobs. Catherine grabbed him up and started crying with him. She had closed her eyes as she was crying and hadn't noticed that the members of the council had crowded around her. She felt a warm paw on her thigh and saw the little doggy staring at her with a look of worry. Are you okay, Catherine? Is there anything I can do to assist you? She said. Catherine nodded and hugged Azariah to her chest, along with a Trenta and Mrfaye. Wrestler curled up onto Catherine's lap next, and then brought her tail up to Catherine's head to stroke her hair and tell her it would be all right. Mizan, who had been trying to hide herself away and become invisible, decided that she should help the poor girl too, as she walked over and jumped up onto Catherine's shoulders as she started purring. One by one, more floofies came to comfort Catherine, and she ended up in a pile of them as she fell asleep. Most of the council had been up for another day and a half or so, but Ment, Gracie, Layla, Greg and Nadim had fallen asleep on Catherine's floof pile. Ment decided to go back to his quarters to ruminate on the last 2 days. Gracie was just standing there, staring at the pile of dignified council members that had formed a blanket for the Terran that they had only just met, and only just decided wasn't trying to eat them. She was wondering how the hell that happened so quickly, but decided to just go to her room and sleep off the confusion. Layla observed the massive Ferran level with idle curiosity before up and leaving. She still had paperwork to do after all. Grek eyed the sleeping Fuki with jealousy as he couldn't sleep with the group as she could. Even though they were in tanks of water, she could still participate in what looked so wonderful, whereas he could not. Nadim snorted derisively at the Terran and those who had been taken in by her act. He wasn't going to fall for anything like that. He was the oldest member of the council, at 283 years old. His experience outdated that little girl's by a mile. He would figure out how to expose the Terrans for what they were, if it was the last thing he'd do. Alai had joined Fuki in her tank of water before they all fell asleep, and had taught her about his experience with the Terran Emperor. He had detailed their little foray into the halls of the dead as well. Fuki listened on, intent upon learning all she could about Basilisk and the Terran people. If they were willing to love the Yambi, then the Yambi would love them back. Fuki decided that if the Terrans really did consider them to be just as wonderful as the other races, who looked at them as monsters to be tolerated, then she would devote her people to those who actually loved them. As she watched each of her peers move to support the newest addition, she realized the Terrans are the incarnation of both love and wrath, life and death. If they can make us love them like this in a few hours, then just imagine how much love we will have for one another in a few years. I have no doubt that they can give us love and life while giving those who would wish us harm wrath and death. That is why he left her. He is death, and she is life, she thought, as she let sleep take her.